Heresy, or truth. Joel's death wasn't earned. The Last of Us was built on Joel and Ellie's relationship. Every mile they traveled together made players care about them. From a broken man who lost everything, to a father figure who found something worth protecting again. By the end of the first game, Joel isn't just a character anymore. He's a promise, a bond the player feels responsible for. And that's why Joel's death in The Last of Us Part 2 became such a defining moment. Not because Joel was untouchable, not because he didn't have consequences coming. Joel made a choice at the end of the first game that changed the world. A choice that was always going to come back to haunt him. The question is whether the game gave that moment the weight it deserved. Because after spending an entire game building a connection between Joel and Ellie, his death happens before the player has time to truly process what it means. Instead of feeling like the end of Joel's journey, it feels like the beginning of Abby's revenge story. So the question is, was Joel's death a powerful conclusion to his story, or was it just cheap heat to make players hate Abby? The issue for many players wasn't that Abby was the person who killed Joel. The issue was that it happened so early, before players knew who Abby was, what her motivations were, or why Joel was important to her. She was immediately defined by one moment. She was the person who took away the character players had spent an entire game building a connection with. And for some fans, it felt like the game was designed to create instant hatred towards Abby. But it also created another reaction. Some players felt the story was trying to immediately change how they viewed Joel, framing his decision at the end of the first game as something wrong rather than something morally complicated. Instead of allowing players to wrestle with Joel's choice naturally, they felt the sequel was telling them how they were supposed to see him. But there is another way to interpret that decision. Some argue that the hatred towards Abby was intentional. By introducing her as the person responsible for Joel's death, the game puts players in the same emotional position as Ellie. The story then challenges that reaction by forcing players to spend a large portion of the game experiencing Abby's perspective. The intention wasn't necessarily to make Abby instantly likable, but to show that the person we see as a villain can have their own history, motivations, and struggles. While Abby commits an act that many players found unforgivable, the game also shows her helping Lev and risking herself to protect someone else. The question becomes whether The Last of Us Part 2 successfully challenged the player's perspective, or whether the way Abby was introduced made that change too difficult for some players. Ultimately, it comes down to what you value most in storytelling. If you believe a story should challenge its audience, then Joel's death may have been exactly what it needed to be. It was shocking, divisive, and it laid the foundation for the rest of Part 2 by forcing players to confront the consequences of his actions through Abby's eyes. But if you believe a story has to earn those emotions before asking for your empathy, then it's easy to see why so many players felt the game relied on shock first and understanding later. For those players, Joel's death wasn't just heartbreaking, it was cheap heat. So what do you think? Was Joel's death an earned narrative decision that made The Last of Us Part 2's story possible? Or was it simply cheap heat, used to make players hate Abby before asking them to sympathize with her? Heresy, or truth? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.